Hi, my name is Sydney Fox, and I'm doing my research proposal on whether or not criminal justice agencies are effectively reducing the incidences of human trafficking nationwide. I was first introduced to the topic of human trafficking when my husband and I went overseas for my husband's job. He was a civilian contract in the United Arab Emirates in the city of Abu Dhabi, and in that country there were a lot of incidences of human trafficking, sort of a topic I had never heard of before, and I was surprised that I hadn't heard of it because as it turns out it's a really big deal and more people, I think, should be aware that it's going on. And I think when most people think of human trafficking, they think of international in scope, and it really is also going on in the United States. In Abu Dhabi, there seemed to be a lot of instances where the authorities or even the people that were around us kind of turned a blind eye to it and didn't take the idea of human trafficking seriously. And I was kind of appalled and shocked and, sort of was like, why does nobody care? Why is nobody doing anything? And so that was why I wanted to get kind of the word out that this was going on. While we were in Abu Dhabi, I used to read the newspaper called The National, and that was their national newspaper that was run in English. It was the first English Arabic newspaper in the country, and that newspaper continually did stories on human trafficking, and one of them was specifically for the sex trade. That what was going on was cabs were coming to the airport to give women rides to their hotels, and these were typically Eastern European women. And they were coming alone. The cab driver would come to them, say, "Where are you headed?" And when they gave the cab driver the address, these women had never been to the country, so they didn't know where they were going. So when the cab driver would take them, they assumed they were being taken to the place that they told the cab driver, and instead they were being paid money to take these women to these basically brothels that were keeping them, locked away and performing sexual acts completely independent of their choices. So this became sort of a rampant issue, and there were people doing stories on it. Like I said, it was in the National, and so people were finally being able to see that this was an issue, and then as far as authorities went, nobody did anything. The biggest issue with human trafficking is that it's vastly underreported. While most people say, oh, is that something that goes on in the United States? I didn't really know. That's because most of the cases that are actually going on aren't reported at all. The Global Philanthropy Forum in 2008 estimated that 27 million people were enslaved globally. And during that time, they had only, this was in a year's time, they had only captured and I suppose rescued 50 total people. So it seems kind of insane that 50 people, well, that doesn't seem like that many when we're talking about 27 million globally who are suffering from this type of victimization. Human trafficking isn't just sex trafficking. There are many different types of people and reasons that trafficking exists. We know that sex trafficking, I think, is probably, the biggest one that comes to mind when people think of trafficking. But there's also male trafficking. Men are brought into the country for agricultural reasons. When you need to find a lot of people to serve a workforce, trafficking is a great way to do it as far as those who are, running this kind of business, because the typical person, as far as agricultural worker goes, are only worth about $300, so they're completely disposable. So they bring these men in to work on farms or, really general laborers, anywhere that they're needed, without much regard to their humanity or them at all. They're basically animals to the traffickers. For my project, I will research what methods and policies and procedures are currently being used in various agencies, both state, national, and international wide, to see if they're effective, and if they're not effective, what kinds of things need to be implemented so that human trafficking can at least be reduced, if not eliminated. And I hope you look forward to seeing it.